and whenever you're ready.
Good afternoon, my name is Anika, and today I'm going to be talking about the importance of community resilience following natural disasters. So before we get started, it's important to gain an understanding of what community resilience is. So Oxford Dictionary defines community as a group of people that live in the same region or share a common characteristic. On a deeper level, community is a group of people that you can turn to form a support system in time of difficulty. On the other hand, resilience is the ability of a person or a group to respond to and come back from a difficulty that they are faced in their life. So when you put these two definitions together, you come up with the definition of community resilience, which is the ability of a community to come back and withstand the difficulties and ongoing hardships that they are faced with following natural disasters. Adding to the importance of the community aspect of this resilience, researchers from the National Institute of Health have shown that when members of a community feel more of a sense of connectedness with each other, they have enhanced responses of recovery to disaster. So when many people hear the phrase natural disaster, the first thing that comes to mind are images of New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina or the current earthquakes in Syria and Turkey. But while these images give a more surface level image of the horrific destruction caused by natural disaster, there are many more layers. And with the increasing risk of natural disaster as a result of climate change, it becomes very important that resilience is built in communities. So when natural disaster strikes, there are two main sectors of damage that are caused. First to the environment, and then to infrastructure. So as for environment, community splinters as people are displaced as a result of homelessness and destruction to their property. And public health is put at risk as these people's lives are now put in danger due to property damage and more harsher living conditions, as well as increased stressors that cause an effect on their mental health. As for the economy, it becomes volatile as infrastructure collapses and a country's resources and wealth start to plummet. And property damage, not just to residential areas, but also to hospitals and other key public institutions, can cause damage to the overall community. So now you now may be wondering what is needed to support resilience in communities that are faced with the risk of natural disasters. Strong public institutions are key to this community approach, as they have the ability to support these smaller community programs on a funding level and through the spread of awareness. Without public institutions that are able to do so, then community programs would not be as successful. And a strong sense of connectedness is also important, which can be seen through the 2010 Haiti earthquake. Research there has shown that after the earthquake, Haitians were able to cope better because they felt a stronger sense of family, community, and spirituality. So having that support system in your community can lead to a greater ability to adapt to the disaster that you have faced. Further, stable government is important as leaders have the ability to spread awareness about community resilience programs to a broader level than just the small area that one person can meet in. So resiliency is not a new concept. This can be seen through the historic Aboriginal people of the Australian continent. And after the 2019 wildfires in New Zealand, they ravaged the forests in Australia, but there was one region that was once home to the Australian Indigenous people that remained relatively unscathed, as you can see in this image on the screen. In 1872, the landscape still remains as it is in 2020, even after being destroyed by these fires. So this is an example of how other communities have come together to put into resiliency plans to protect their environment and their lifestyles. But when a community lacks resilience, it can have detrimental effects. So after Hurricane Maria hit Puerto Rico, suicide rates increased by 18% according to the American Psychological Association, and this is caused by a lack of resiliency. So lack of resiliency causes property destruction, which leads to homelessness and displacement, and can also cause loss of jobs and overall increased stressors. So when this alternation of lifestyle occurs, people face more stress because they no longer have a safe roof over their heads, they no longer have a source of income to bring into their homes, and this causes more stress, and when this stress persists over a long period of time, it can lead to a decline in a person's mental health. And when a person's mental health declines, it leads to sometimes an inevitable increase of suicide rates in a given region that has been affected by natural disaster. And this is all due to the fact that a lack of resilience has occurred at the very beginning point of natural disaster. Also, property and infrastructure, it collapses as a result of natural disaster. And it's important to note that property isn't limited to just residential areas. Hospitals can be damaged, which puts communities' public health in danger. And this image is of a hospital in Puerto Rico that had to be makeshifted because the actual hospital was damaged, and this puts patients who need critical care at higher risk. Police stations cannot function properly as a result of property damage, causing increased crime rates, and sanitation services such as water purification and sewage systems can be damaged as well. However, when community resilience is put into place effectively, it can have great effects on the community itself, which can be seen through the Save the Children project in the Philippines. On the screen, you can see Filipino citizens are planting mangroves on the coastline of the Philippines. And what this does is when the mangroves grow, it can help detract from the damage caused by storm surges during hurricanes, so it prevents the storm surge from going through to the main populated areas of the islands, and it protects not only damage to property but also to the public health of the island as a whole. Further, after the 2010 4-mile fire in Canyon Boulder County, Colorado, the E-Mountain Emergency Radio Network was formed by citizens to mitigate any further damage that could be caused, because the citizens found that they weren't aware of the situation as it was happening, so they created this program in order to inform other mountain residents as a disaster occurred, and also keeps a volunteer program on standby for any disaster-related issues that may occur. And they partnered with already existing local institutions such as the Boulder County Emergency Radio Emergency Networks. So this shows how the community came together after a natural disaster to mitigate the consequences of a future issue. After Hurricane Maria, a region in Puerto Rico called Corcodova had already experienced water security issues. So before Hurricane Maria even occurred, they took steps to mitigate these issues of water security, and they did this through the linking of social capital, which is the ability of a community organization to go to its government and get funds and support. So by this, they were able to install batteries in the aqueducts, and this reduced their reliance on gasoline to purify their water, and this led to more water security in a time of uncertainty for the region. So overall, after I did all my research, I found that one main overarching theme came up after researching resilience in communities after natural disasters, and this is that an increase in resiliency plans regarding natural disasters caused an overall decrease in consequences associated with natural disaster in high-risk areas. So now the question became, how can communities build and maintain this resilience if it is so important to the functioning of their societies? They can form community and neighborhood organizations, and through this they can make evacuation plans, security plans, and even put together disaster kits that are available to all members of their community in a given moment when it is in need. They can form relationships with their community leaders to implement programs on a more widespread level, and this also allows them to link social capital, as mentioned in the case of Puerto Rico. And also, practicing a healthy lifestyle overall will help them mitigate the disaster response, because if they have awareness of their mental health and stressors, they will be able to prevent any possible mental health issues that result as natural disasters occur. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so we have some questions for you. How did you select the strategies you used to gather information? Were they effective?
So when I was researching, I wanted to focus a lot on current resiliency programs that were already in effect, because I thought it would show how a contrast between how a lack of resilience and a current presence of resilience, how they contrast each other. So I looked into disasters that have occurred recently, such as Hurricane Maria and the fire in Colorado, and while I researched those, I researched the community response to them, and I also tried to look at academic sources from these specific regions. So for example, when I talked about the fire in Colorado, I used a paper from the Colorado University because it gave more of a first-hand experience of what the disaster was like. So.
Okay. And then lastly, what might be the real-world implications or consequences of your findings? What are the implications to your community?
Yeah, so overall, I think that my findings show the importance of being prepared in the face of natural disaster, especially because climate change is causing disasters to occur more frequently. I think the implications would be that it encourages communities to take the steps necessary in order to mitigate these responses, both in my community and overall, because it is very important that we can save lives through this and property as well as the economy of many regions by implementing community resilience programs.
Okay. Thank you very much.